Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. In this video I'll be reviewing Bauhaus's sophomore album called Mask, which came out in 1981. This is the second time they've been featured on my channel. I did review their debut album, which is right here, called Bauhaus, self-titled. And I give that one a really strong score, 87 out of 100. It's a goth classic. It's a goth rock, the example of goth rock. I think if anybody made a top 5 goth rock albums of all time, it's hard not to put that on the list. I think it would be on most people's list, and sure enough, it'd probably be in the top 2 or 3, for me, overall. And so we're going to review here the second album. And it's interesting, here's an original copy, by the way. My brother got this copy in like 87 or 88. It's funny when you grow up. I don't know if you guys were like this when you were a kid, but, if your brother or your sister got it and a certain record, then you didn't feel like you needed to get it because you kind of shared music. And that's how me and my brother went. So if my brother had it on cassette, or he had it on CD or something like that, then I didn't necessarily get it because we would share music so much. So my brother was the one that really got me into Bauhaus. And in fact, every time I've seen Bauhaus, and most of the times I've seen Peter Murphy in concert, which is quite a bit, has been with my brother. And so we've shared that bond of loving Bauhaus's music and Peter Murphy and even loving Rockets and stuff like that. And, so my brother had all 4 of the albums of Bauhaus, the original one, or the debut one, Mask, Burning from the Inside, Sky's Gone Out. So he had all those. So I didn't necessarily have them. So for me, what I most known them for in my collection was that, I recorded those cassettes from him, so I played those here and there as well, but it was mostly the 79 through 83. He had that on cassette, I had that on vinyl, and so that's where I mostly, I feel like the songs I know the most are on the 79 through 83. So obviously they're coming off this sophomore album, they're coming off a really strong debut album. And I feel like on this particular album that they're kind of carefree and they're having a lot of fun on this particular album. It seems like there's a lot of upbeat songs. There's a lot of songs that are more dancey, and that's probably what is the major factor in sort of whether or not some tracks on here sort of are not the higher, more appreciated Bauhaus tracks than others for people. Like if they're comparing certain albums, their debut album really is the quintessential goth rock album, but this Mask album, it has a lot of like dancey songs in here. There's quite a few. I mean, there's one called Dancing. Kicking the Eye is a very upbeat dance song, and Fear of Fear is a dance song. Muscle and Plastic has a good groove to it. Again, Dancing. Of Lilies and Remains is kind of funky in a strange way. Hair of the Dog is kind of edgy and upbeat. So, it almost it feels like they're having fun here, and sort of, I wouldn't say they're rebelling against their goth rock sound but I feel like, I don't know if they had the same idea as like The Cure around this time, and were like they didn't really want to be identified by that kind of goth rock scene. And you have to figure when goth rock was sort of coming out in 79 and 80 and 81, and sort of punk's dying maybe in some ways, and especially maybe in UK, because they've already had it for 3 or 4 or 5 years by like 81. So in some ways it's kind of dying. Like the people that have been into the scenes aren't really into it anymore. The people that have kind of gone into some goth rock in the maybe 1979, 80, maybe even by 81 or 82, they're sort of feeling like, their style's going to end. So The Cure sort of changed and didn't really want to be identified, even though they had a strong cult following, and they sort of changed their style. And they went a little bit more dancey and Japanese Whispers by 82. And in some ways, Mask kind of did that as well. But I think what it comes down to is they're just having fun, and they're just making some catchy songs. Sometimes there's some songs that Peter Murphy kind of leads Bauhaus to, or maybe in his solo career, sound a little bit like T-Rex or like David Bowie, especially like Ziggy Stardust, obviously, because that's a cover song, but like Kill the Hate. And there's always like a song on each album, or sometimes it's 2 songs where I feel like Peter Murphy is kind of leading them into more of a classic rock sound, if that makes sense, but more of a classic glam rock sound, really, because you think of like T-Rex and stuff like that. And so, this album has a little bit more of that than sort of the goth rock sound. I feel like in the first album, but there's almost a song on every album that's he sort of goes back to that. You think of like Tarot Couple, Kill Carnal, or Kick in the Eye, kind of has that. Just kind of this fun, upbeat and danceable kind of a rock side of Bauhaus, and probably like you, like me, the the kind of final decision on whether this album where it merits or where it ranks in their discography depends on how much you like certain songs on here, and it really for me it comes down to like Kick in the Eye and Fear of Fear and some of their danceable songs like Dancing and Muscle and Plastic, for example. All those four tracks, it really depends how much you like those tracks. It starts off with Hair of the Dog, which I think has a edgy sound, and it's kind of their upbeat ones that always is really catchy. It's a good starter of an album. Kevin Haskins, his tribal drumming on this album is just amazing. I can't tell you how much like the band members in here really do their thing and are really stand out in their own way, but they're really pulling the weight each themselves at certain times. Like there's sometimes where the bass line just really sticks out really strong. Sometimes Kevin Haskins' drumming really sticks out and really kind of leads them. Obviously, Peter Murphy's voice. There's some great singing he does on here, some great performances on here. When you think of like Mask and Hollow Hills and Passion of Lovers, like he does a great job on here. And then you think of Daniel Ash as like the odd man out, and he's actually doing the most unusual work on here as far as like the sounds that he's doing with his guitars, and he seems to kind of like add this like sometimes it's just a certain sound or a certain things he does with his guitar, but there's always like a sound in like a lot of Bauhaus songs that really kind of carry that particular song, and a lot of times it's kind of like an eerie or a different, very unique sounding sound in whatever that song is that really kind of takes it to another level and makes it so memorable. Like Daniel Ash is like a magician. I gave Hair of the Dog 7 stars. Passion of Lovers, I gave 8.25 stars. Driving, powerful. Peter Murphy singing in Passion of Lovers is just wicked. Just carries the whole track. Of Lilies and Remains, funky. Bass line's great. It's surprisingly funky. Good track, 6 stars. Dancing, 6.5 stars. It's almost like an in between their dancey sound and sort of their post-punk sound. It's kind of in between the two. Hollow Hills, Bauhaus classic, 9 stars. Eerie, spooky. The bass line is key there. Peter does an amazing job as usual there. Kick in the Eye, I think, is one of the strongest danceable songs that Bauhaus ever did, along with Tarot Couple Kill Carnal, which I love. I know a lot of people don't love Tarot Couple Kill Carnal, but I love that song. Kick in the Eye, I also think that's an excellent song. Give it 8 stars. Dancy, it's almost like a disco song. It's just in a strange way. Like you could play it at a disco club, and I don't think anybody would question why you're playing it, even though it's a goth rock song. And then you have In Fear of Fear, 6.75 stars. I think it's a strong song. It's kind of probably one of the weakest songs on their Greatest Hits album, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's on that album. But some people don't like that song. Some people do, and that's really what's key to this. Again, it's key to this album of what you think of some of these upbeat songs, whether how much you rank this album compared to their debut album. It's hard not to rate their debut album the sophomore album. And some people might say this album is a sophomore slump. I don't necessarily say that because it's probably because I mostly know them for their greatest hits. And so I didn't really grow up comparing Bauhaus albums. Like that's how much I was, playing the greatest hits album. Fear of Fear, I give 6.75 stars. Muscle and Plastic, 5.75 stars. My least favorite song on the album. Man with the X-Ray Eyes, 6.25 stars. So you can see those 3 tracks kind of bring the album down some. When you think about it, there's 5 tracks that I have. There's 4 tracks actually. Well, I'll go to the Mask. Mask, the last track I give you 8.5 stars. One of their most gothic songs ever. I think it's, if there wasn't a Bela Lugosi, Mask might be that particular song that's kind of like their most dramatic and powerful goth rock song. Not necessarily their most rocky song, but it's just such a different song, and it's in some ways it's just like classic Bauhaus. But when I look at the album, I have 5 songs that are in between 5.75 and 6.75. But then I have 4 songs that are all above 8, and then I have 1 song at 7. So you can see it's like one half is really strong, the other half is about averaging good. So it lands right in the middle at a 72 out of 100. 72 stars divided by 10 tracks is a 72. I didn't necessarily give this one any particular extra points. I feel like that. I feel like the concern, or maybe the drawback of this particular album compared to the first album, the flow isn't quite there in the first out like it is in the first album. I mean, the first album again has one of the most iconic goth rock and I think 80s rock sides of all time. When you think of like Double Dare, you know, in the Flat Field, God in Alcove, just right in a row, those 3. I mean, to kick off the album, just amazing. And so again, it really depends on what you think of the more dancey songs. So I know some people that are really hardcore goth rock fans don't really like the dancey side of Bauhaus, like Kick in the Eye, In Fear of Fear, and stuff like that. So that's probably why this album is not to the level of the debut one. And for me, it's like that as well, but I don't think mine is as far off as other people. It's probably, if it was mixed around the songs a little bit, it would be a little bit more like the first album. If they could push the better songs on the first side and then keep some of the other ones on the second side. I think, so, and there's some way, depending on the tracks, like they could probably flow a little bit better. So, it's just kind of like up and down with some tracks. Like you go from Passion of Lovers, or it goes from Hair of the Dog, really strong rock opener, into Passion of Lovers, and then kind of into Lilies and Remains, which isn't totally off-putting, and I don't think it's a bad track, but it's just kind of like, and then it goes into Dancing, and then into Hollow Hills. So it's just kind of like going up and down and up and down, and it's just kind of like, maybe Hollow Hills would have been better after Passion of Lovers. Or I like how the album ends on Mask. Kick in the Eye is in the middle, which I think some of the dancing ones could be in the middle, but it just kind of depends on what your thoughts are on their more dancier songs, whether you think this is a really great album or you think it's kind of in the middle. I would probably think most people think it's maybe the least best of the Bauhaus albums, of the 4 albums. I know there's a lot of people out there that really like Sky's Gone Out. I know my brother's favorite album is Burning from the Inside, so I know there's like a lot of different opinions of what is the best album. Sometimes I feel like it's just saying different ones just because everybody doesn't want to say it's the first album. I don't know if that's true, but it's just really hard not to give that one in the first album. It just really kind of comes down to the songs. I mean, there's just great songs and more great songs on the first album. Just amazing. But, I mean, for 4 albums they did, there's just so much great music in the Bauhaus legacy. I mean, for 4 years, 4 amazing albums, just amazing stuff. Amazing band. It really changed the history of goth rock and rock. I mean, not only defined it, but also is the example of it. If you're interested, I've also reviewed a few Peter Murphy albums on my channel. Just look down in the playlist and you'll be able to find those, or just search Electric Cafe Peter Murphy. That will come up. I really appreciate your time, and sorry I'm a little bit under the weather, not feeling that great today, but still wanted to do a review today because I had some extra time and just kind of laying around the house. All right, we'll see you on the next video. I appreciate your time. Thank you.